here tonight, not only my own personal interest with the businesses that on the topic at hand is what I witnessed at the last council meeting personally with the purchase of this land. Here is the deal. As merchants, we don't have the square under control. We don't have a solid footprint in the square. But yet we can invest, at least according to the Open Records report, over $6 million and now add another $300,000. In a time frame where it was very clearly said, don't buy it, the DOT is going to do it. It's really simple what we're asking. It's a yes or no. Will you, specifically the four of you that voted for this, ask for another vote? From an ethics perspective, as your citizens, the people that elected you to office, we don't understand why we don't get phone calls back, and we don't understand why you can vote on property, quite honestly, Gail, that's right next to your house. I am embarrassed to say what the call of the park now is naughty park, and naughty behavior from the council, and that's embarrassing to me as a citizen. I don't get it. I don't understand it. Now, I'm sure there'll be grandstanding, there'll be positioning, there'll be tying up on the detail, go ahead. But as your citizens, we're simply saying, yes or no, will you re-vote? That's it. Nothing complicated, we don't want a lecture, we don't want a sermon, we don't want a recap of the last 50 years of what's going on in this council, although we may get it anyway. But very clearly, please understand, an ethics violation on several counts will be filed with the Secretary of State, and we felt like, as merchants and citizens, we owed you that ahead of time, so you knew what we were doing. Because if you voted for this and you didn't insist that Gail recuse herself from this, we don't get it. It's next to her property. Now, I know DOT said don't buy it, at least according to the meeting I was in. I know the witness said we had 151 feet. But what I do know is it was not on the agenda ahead of time. As citizens, we had no chance to comment on it, and there was no appraisal ready to go. So it's a simple yes or no. Please don't lecture us. Please re-vote this. And we know it takes one of the four of you that voted against it to come back in and say, hey, hold on, we will reconsider. Because the SPLOST money is precious to us. And in the best interest, I'm going to reel to Shelley, but guys, as your citizens, you can see this place is packed tonight for a reason. The old way of doing things is not working, and we're ashamed of what's going on.
Okay, stop my clock. Hey, my clock is still running. You
Go,
just
Shelley.
set it back.
Go, Shelley.
I certainly will.
Thank you. About a year, my name is Shelley Delisle, by the way. About a year ago, I became aware of this council's plan to expand Alexander Park. I was showed this conceptual design that everyone has here, and I remember thinking, wow, this is a pretty amazing park. A park like this would be a wonderful addition to our little town and would certainly attract lots of visitors. Quite often, however, when I brought up the subject of the park with friends, I got a lot of interesting feedback. What they shared with me was probably part true, part false, and part rumor mill gossip. Lots of gossip. After this last council workshop meeting, however, I formed my own opinion. I felt compelled to speak publicly and, for the record, express my concerns to this council regarding what I see as, one, an ethical conflict of interest as it relates to Councilmember Notti's voting on issues relating to the expansion of Alexander Park, and two, my concerns regarding the scope and execution of the plan. Concern number one, ethical interest. September 2006, a master plan for the expansion of Alexander Park was presented to this council. The proposal was to expand the park to 140 acres, and a vast array of amenities were to be constructed. And you guys have had a chance to look at that map. Councilmember Notti was the champion of this plan, and she was deeply involved in every aspect of the park's design, execution, and has been its most ardent supporter these many years. What's troubling to me, and is the primary reason many are in attendance tonight, is Councilmember Notti, Vincent, Stewart, and Garner's vote on November 2nd to approve the purchase of yet another parcel of land, this one located on the west side of Notti's home, just 2 days after losing her seat on council and with only 56 days remaining in office. As you can see on the conceptual design, Councilmember Notti's home is now surrounded by protected parkland all purchased by the city. This council's decision to modify its published workshop agenda during the workshop meeting in order to discuss and vote on the purchase of this property deprived those who oppose this purchase the opportunity to challenge your decision because we didn't even know this item was going to be discussed. Why the hurry? Couldn't you have elected to put this item on the regular city council meeting agenda just 2 weeks later, thus allowing the public the opportunity to speak on this issue? The timing of this vote feels a bit shady. According to the conceptual design, the purchased property is slated for development of a grand drive-in entrance to the park. I'm uncertain as to why Council Member Notti, Vincent, Stewart, and Varner would vote to approve this purchase when, at this time, the council has no executable plan, no funding, and no funding for the development of the Alexander West amenities, and when GDOT previously notified this council that a portion of this land would be needed for the future, in the future for the one-way pairs project slated to begin 2017. With all due respect, perhaps this council should place a prominent sign on this land that states, "Welcome to nothing." Councilmember Notti has been permitted to vote on all park issues related issues these many years when it is clearly evident she stands to gain personally due to the prominent location of her home at the south entrance of the park. The Ethics, Conflicts of Interest, and Abuse of Office section of the Handbook for Georgia Mayors and Council Members states, "It is improper and illegal for a member of a municipal council to vote on any question brought before the council in which he is personally interested." In a system of government such as ours, which depends on public confidence in its leaders, it's important for city officials to understand that any actions which may not violate a specific criminal or civil statute on conflict of interest clearly violates ethical principles. Again, the handbook is quite clear. The opportunity to profit from a situation plus an individual's control over that situation are the elements that create an ethical violation. We believe Councilmember Notti should have elected to recuse herself from voting on any issues relating to the park expansion, and if unwilling to do so, this council should have taken action on the matter to negate even the appearance of wrongdoing. Concern number 2, the scope and execution of the plan. In preparation for this meeting, I have spent many hours trying to learn as much as possible about this plan. I made a number of calls to various individuals within City Hall for assistance, and almost at every turn I was told the same thing. You have to issue an open records request, and we will research that for you at a cost. Yes, that's correct. I have to pay for this information. Although this council has been steadily executing what is probably one of the most ambitious and expensive plans this city has ever managed, estimated 10 years ago to be $52 million, with an ongoing annual maintenance cost of $4 million. The only information that is readily available to the public is this conceptual plan and one entry on the city website under the section of ongoing city projects that states furniture will be delivered the week of July 29th. The expansion plan was presented at a special called meeting on September 28, 2006. Several scope of work memorandums from GDOT, the consulting firm hired by the city to develop the plans, were sent to then City Manager James Lee, and I assume to the council. These documents clearly outlined the next steps to be taken to successfully execute the park expansion plan. The tasks included establish a nonprofit 501c3 organization and the establishment of a board, an advisory board, to be responsible for fundraising and the operation of the park. Initiate preliminary discussions with potential major donors in regards to fundraising for park development. Conduct a study of the economic and fiscal impact of the park on the city, county, and state. Develop a fundraising strategy and plan. Retain an executive director to oversee the strategic plan development and manage the day-to-day operations. Initiate the conceptual design and programming for major park components such as the Butterfly House and the Environmental Center. initiate fundraising, determine the portions of the plan to be executed based on fundraising achievements, procure surveys of the property, initiate first phase of site development. Now, while that was probably a very boring list for you to listen to, and more than likely it put some of you to sleep, it is important that you understand that the execution of those recommendations were essential to this implementation of the park's conceptual design. In my opinion, here are the reasons why this council has failed in the execution of the plan. First and foremost, this plan was doomed for failure from the beginning because there was never agreement amongst council members regarding its scope of work. This plan was developed and approved under Mayor Richard Craig, and after losing re-election, incoming Mayor Copeland and council were tasked with its execution. Councilmember Notti was the leading proponent for execution of the plan, and Mayor Copeland had concerns the plan would potentially bankrupt the city. Alliances on this council were formed, and the execution of the plan slowed to a crawl. We now find ourselves with about 140 acres of land, a partially finished walking trail, which by the way is very nice. Go walk on it, I do like that. An outdoor toilet, and a parking lot about to be constructed. Do you have any idea how much has been spent by this council to date? Anyone? I do. Information was provided via the open records request, and I'll be happy to provide this to you because I took all that information and did some additional analysis. And right now, we are in excess of $8 million being spent to date. So I'll be happy to pass this off, and you can see how it's broken down in the areas of design, legal, land acquisition, and construction. So I think that might be new to you because I don't believe anyone in council has an answer to those questions. Secondly, although some of the steps recommended by the consulting firm were executed, like the establishment of the advisory board and a study of the economic and physical impact of the park on the community, the most critical of the tasks were not executed. Specifically, hiring an executive director to manage the day-to-day execution of the park plans, the development of a detailed conceptual design for the major park components, and the most critical failure was not developing and executing a fundraising strategy and plan. I believe, based on the short amount of time I've had to gather information, that the council has done what most of us do. Tackle the projects on the plan for which it's easier for the council to agree, and leave for later the ones that are far more controversial, difficult, and time-consuming to do, like strategic planning and fundraising for later. Well, later is today. Millions of dollars have been spent executing this plan, and we find ourselves with none of Alexander West's amenities planned, a litany of questions regarding those amenities, and no funding secured to move forward. We are at a crossroads. In light of where we find ourselves today, we respectfully request that Council Member Vincent, Stewart, Varner, or Notti propose to amend tonight's agenda and vote before this meeting adjourns for the reconsideration of this $300,000 land acquisition. We do not want this land purchased until this council provides to its citizens an accounting of the funds remaining to be spent on this park, how the money is to be spent, and your plan regarding how we should proceed with the development of this land. This is the only appropriate action to take at this time. We would like to remind this council that trust is the key word that describes the relationship between a local government's elected officials and their constituency. We are placing our trust in you tonight to make the decision for the betterment of this community. Thank you for your time.
Mayor, we can't hear you.
Obviously, there's a lot of statements that were made relative to the park, but council members, it appeared to me that an issue of reconsideration was paramount in each and everything that's been said. So, having heard the comments of Ms. Lamile and the concerns that she has shared with the council, relative to this body's earlier vote in favor of purchasing the former's furniture property, as well as her request for reconsideration. And in that connection, members of the council, I find it very, very simple. As I sit here, I feel compelled to ask whether there's any councilman who previously voted with the majority on this item who wishes at this time and this night to move for reconsideration. Having said that, ladies and gentlemen of the council, I entertain a motion relative to reconsideration, and as was alluded to earlier, it has to come from one of the majority votes.
I just would like to see the faces while they vote.
Ma'am, any council members?
I don't know if they're slouching, we can't see them.
Council. Pause for just a moment and ask a second time. I entertain a motion for reconsideration of an earlier acquisition. Reconsideration. Anyone at this time? I would accept the motion of one of the majority votes. Ladies and gentlemen, since I do not have a motion and obviously do not have a second, this issue dies. So with that, ladies and gentlemen, I'll move down to item number 8A, that we have amended the agenda, and I'll give the council members an opportunity for any comments. Ms. Pruitt?
So that's only done.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Barnes, welcome. Yes, ma'am. Any comments? Yes, ma'am. Oh, no comment, I'm sorry. No comment? Thank you so much. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
To make comments based on our citizens' lack of information
No lack, no lack.
would be it is a lack of information.
These are obtained through open records requests.
Excuse me.
No, ma'am.
Open records requests.
Ms. Shelley, please sit down. Please. Thank you so much.
I believe that both our council and our city manager could speak to these issues. The mayor certainly can speak to a number of the issues, although he has chosen not to. The property has been thoroughly vetted. It has been under discussion not just for this past year. It has been a part of discussions over multiple years. The DOT has not moved forward to purchase any right-of-way concerning the entrance to the park. It was totally overlooked when the one-way pairs began to be an item for the east-west one-way pairs that they were actually going to move forward. There was absolutely nothing done by DOT to give consideration to the fact that we did have a large park there. That was brought to their attention. It was brought to their attention multiple times prior to the one-way pairs becoming an issue to be executed. And we asked for, from the DOT, multiple times for entrance location and capability to utilize the park. This was not forthcoming from DOT, and the DOT also could not provide us proper information concerning the switchback, which had a light. Whether it had a light or didn't have a light. Those of you who are not familiar with the one-way pairs, you go across the railroad track. There is a switchback at Marion's Way. We asked over and over again if there was going to be a light there so that we could apply for a light at Doris Street in order to create an entrance. Excuse me?
They're in the weeds.
Please, please. You have the floor.
The entrance to this property was vital because the property itself does not allow for a road to be constructed from any other area because of environmental sensitive properties that are included within it, because of the buildable property that is strategically pointed out, and usable property that is there. In any case, the DOT did, after multiple discussions and information sent to them, did agree that they would consider a roundabout, because instead of a red light at Doris Street, which is not their first means of settling an issue, but simply a second means, because of the last 7 or 8 years, whenever a red light is requested, which the city did take those steps to do that, to create an entrance. The DOT refused the red light. It also refused entrance to the park based on the property that we did hold because of sight distance. Sight distance could later on not become an issue depending on how the road is constructed, if it's constructed, or when it's constructed. So DOT agreed that a roundabout could be utilized in order to create an entrance, underscore that, an entrance to the park. A roundabout could also serve many other purposes. A calming feature, the ability for traffic to circle when we have trains, the ability to provide emergency vehicles that are unable to be utilized at different times now because of the railroad, and the new configuration with a median that is going to be there would make it even more difficult. So the entrance to the park was the issue. It is what was taken to the county when we asked for SPLOST funding. It is what also was added to that was a request for additional roundabouts, which I myself absolutely made the council aware of, working with our community development director, and determined that not only did we need one roundabout, we needed three others in reality. One at 81, one out at 20, and the possibility of one at the railroad crossing on Hampton in the future. SPLOST funds were allocated for that purpose, and directly for the purpose of the entrance to Alexander Park.
Does she get 5 minutes too?
Yes, ma'am, I'm gonna give her up to 5 more minutes.
Well, then we should get 5 more minutes also.
And you had 15.
No, we had 3 people 5 minutes.
This time is not, you have 5 minutes.
Thank you very much. So when we asked for the roundabout, the then chief engineer of the state of Georgia sent in an email to the city stating that we would be required to purchase any additional right-of-way. To this day, he has not rescinded that, and he is now the what do you call him? What is his, he's head of DOT now. And that has not been rescinded by him. He said that we would be responsible for electrical and the upkeep of the roundabout, as we move forward. So that, the money that was put in SPLOST, the money bonded by this community, was for the proper entrance to the park to allow for construction to begin on SPLOST 3 projects that have still not been built, as well as SPLOST 4 projects that have been put forward. As far as projects that are to be built or constructed, the Butterfly Center, the Education, the Environmental Art and Science Center, the Botanical Gardens, all of those hinged on whether or not the city, once it put its infrastructure in, that is, the trails that you see there, the connecting passes that you see there, the recognition of the historical sites that you see there, and maintaining all entrances as per the LCI, which we don't have another, hour to discuss, that those would only be built once the infrastructure was far enough along to put us in a position to move forward, to secure funding from a foundation. And the foundations were recommended that there would be a revolving fund made available initially until we could create enough income from either school systems with the children's visiting on a regular basis, and yes, that was in part of the feasibility study, and various things of that nature, but we were never committed. Those were things that the city could look forward to if we wanted to provide that for this community. This community deserves the ability to have such amenities and such availability for its citizens. It establishes quality of life. We also have, yes, I'm sorry, you want me to go? You want to finish up?
Yes.
Likewise.
Gail.
No, I don't mind at all.
I've been interrupted several times, Mayor.
You have a full
There have been a number of issues that have caused the city not to move forward with the SPLOST 3 money. There's not enough time to go over that. You might best want to find out about that as you move forward. There are multiple uses of this park, including the underpass. The underpass was designed, but it was a shelf-ready project that was not moved forward on. This underpass can be used for multiple things. Fiber optics can be laid through there. A main trunk line can be reestablished there with a lift station in order to recoup all of the water and sewer customers on the west side once we revisit expanding our wastewater plant, which was absolutely a 1 million-gallon plant with a $3 million building cost and a 3% loan on it at the beginning of 12 years ago, was decided not to move forward through the leadership of our mayor. And because of that, we do not have enough to carry the expansion of the west side at this point. But the tunnel does provide multiple things. The park provides many, many opportunities, including the Audubon Society has already done its due diligence there. As soon as this trail is complete and open, the citizens will be able to have a master birder take them and show them various things. There's specimen trees that are within the old growth trees that are on this property. And the Audubon Society, not the Audubon, but Ducks Unlimited had an interest in being able to open the wetlands and provide additional funding there for us. There are many, many things that you are not aware of, and that I believe that our city manager and our attorney should address. Thank you.
I don't need 5 minutes, so don't turn the clock on. I just had a few things. I want to thank everybody here in attendance. I know some of you didn't get the result that you were looking for, but I promise you your attendance here tonight, your involvement has made a difference and continue to make a difference. And I hope this isn't a one-time thing. We keep having people come. We've had meetings with 0 people here, so this is a good sight. Wanted to thank Lauren from Main Street. She's leaving us to go to Tallahassee. So wanted to publicly thank you for your service and wish you the best of luck to Tallahassee. And I also want to thank our public works guys. I don't think anyone's here tonight, but they've had a busy 30, 60 days with scarecrows, Christmas, and now the pageant coming here. So keep letting them know that we appreciate them. And then secondly, just want to thank the students here tonight that Mr. Dunlap brought. Y'all picked a great meeting to attend. Hope you guys keep coming back. It's great to see young faces in here. So I know these comments are off the subject we've been talking about, but supposed to be the end of the meeting, so I apologize. I of course, voted against that land and prepared to do so again tonight, but that's another story. But thank y'all for coming.
Thank you, Al. Yes, appreciate that, appreciate all the comments. Ms. Benson, yes, ma'am.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much. Lauren, thank you, darling, for the work that you've done in Main Street. You'll leave a footprint, and we really pray for your success.
Thank you.
Thank you for helping to galvanize the community. Your work is greatly appreciated, and I just pray prosperity and success upon you.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
So I'd like to make a few comments regarding the allegations of making a decision that was improprietous in nature. I haven't done so. And I'm going to make very clear tonight, and I won't have to use as many words as Councilperson Notti has. But I'm going to be very clear about my position and my reason for my position in the process that I go through in making a decision. So I have all of the emails from GDOT. I have all of the minutes from SLOST. I have the plan. I have it in a blown up version in my home. And I have pictures that I'd like for someone at some point to display. So Mayor, I think one thing I'd like to first of all address, because there's a lot of conversation about a coalition that was developed and we somehow finagled something with the minutes and the workshop and the agenda and put something on the agenda that shouldn't have been and the public didn't know. So I'm going to leave it up to you to either refute that or to say that it's so. But when the community is talking about council, because you are a part of this body, you're talking about mayor and council. I know that I haven't talked to anybody about adding or taking anything from the agenda. I didn't have a secret meeting after Councilperson Notti wasn't re-elected. There have been no conversations. In fact, I haven't talked to Councilperson Notti.
No one's accused you of secret meetings.
No, ma'am.
That was said. That was said that we had this meeting in a workshop instead of a regular council meeting, and the community didn't have a chance to respond. A lot of things have been said. Oh, okay. Thank you. I have what's been posted on Facebook, and I have notes from what was said here tonight.
Please continue.
So, what I'd like to say or ask, at what point did the conflict of interest develop? Was the conflict when Councilperson Notti brought this concept to Henry County and the city of McDonough and proposed that this project be developed?
Around her
Was
head,
there a conflict then? Because we have at least 3 administrations and 2 mayors who have not one time called for a ruling on a conflict of interest.
Absolutely.
Shelley, I'm not having a dialogue with you, I'm talking to the body at large.
You're looking at me.
I'm looking at the audience.
Ms. Benson has the floor. Ms. Delisle. Please.
So let me make something very clear. I represent District 2. I represent the city of McDonough at large. I love my city. I live here. My sworn commitment is to make this city the best city that it can be. We have invested greater than $7 million in that project. We have been talking about the fact that we need to revisit our plans and do updates, and that typically takes place at the beginning of the year when we decide what money we're going to invest at our retreat and whether or not we're going to do that. I represent District 2. The only access other than Highway 42 that District 2 has is the access that's next door to Councilperson Notti's house. That was on the original master plan, not something that we just came up with, not something that we just thought about, but in 2006 when this was rolled out, that entrance was next door to her house. 2 mayors, 3 councils, including Councilperson Brown, Councilperson Pruitt. All of these folks were a part of it. Not once do you see in any of the minutes where anybody called for a conflict of interest. Because if the truth be known, if anyone has seen Councilperson Notti's house, then that house stands to bring more value to the park than the park does to her house. So whether you agree to that or not, it's not important to this conversation. But what is important is I cannot expect Laurel Spring, Willow Bend, Wesley Lakes, Overlook to drive all the way down Jonesboro Road to Highway 42 and go into that entrance. We've invested in that park on the part of this city, and the people in that district deserve an access. And you're not going to tell me that there's not competition for where the entrance to the park takes place, because my colleague has already requested that funds be moved to Highway 42 to improve that entrance. Now, do I have any objections to that? No. But what I do have objections to is a disparity in how we invest money in this city. We're not going to put it all downtown. We're not going to put it all on one side of the community and leave everybody else out. Now, this might be a vague and a foreign concept to a lot of people here, but I've sat in meetings where I have had to capacity in the city of McDonough. So we had conversations about bringing it back. In those conversations, the whole debate was that you guys deserve to be on this water system. And then when we said, yes, we'll go on that water system, then the next thing that happened was they said, well, let's wait 10 years down the road and then we'll incrementally bring you back. You can't have it both ways. These things do happen. And our communities go underrepresented. And I want to make sure that the district that I serve continues to be represented. We deserve access from Jonesboro Road, and that's what I voted for, is access to Jonesboro Road. The property was commercial property. The property belonged to farmers. You can't get the same amount of money for residential that you get for commercial.
Ms. Benson, please bring it to closure, please.
Mayor, I have 3 minutes. Now I have 2 minutes.
You used 8.
I had those pictures shown because on every one of those pictures, it is a groundbreaking of sort. And you see elected people from the city of McDonough. How can we participate in ribbon cuttings and groundbreakings, dog parks, and things like this, and then at this particular juncture, we're saying it's a conflict of interest? Was it a conflict of interest when we had the ribbon cutting? And I would go as far as to include that the city didn't pay for all of this park. This came through donations that Councilperson Notti was able to get. That is accurate. And I will say this as well. There has to be a community lawn for all people to have access to.
Yep.
When the Caribbean and the Jerk Festival was out on the square, we had people complaining that there were too many people on the square. So we moved to Alexander Park. When we moved them to Alexander Park, the McDonough Youth Association said, you're messing up the ball fields, you can't be here. So we have a segment of the population that want to have festivals and want to bring quality of life to the community, and they can't because there's nowhere to go. And so the majority of the people who are here tonight are people who represent the merchants. And I love you guys because I've always been a supporter of downtown. But it's not fair when there's another part of the community out there that deserves access to this $7 million park, and you round up everybody on the square to come here and complain and say that we have misused funds.
Well, then, thank you
It's
so
not
much.
fair.
Your time is up, ma'am. Ladies and gentlemen, I don't have any comments. We discussed this from tide and light to the view of a pole. One more thing, we have one more thing to this discussion. And having said that, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to...
Mayor, I would just ask, sir, because when the leader doesn't take a position, then a lot of times people fight because they feel like they're supporting your agenda. And so I understand that you don't support the acquisition of this land, but if we did not acquire that land, we have no way of guaranteeing that there is access on Jonesboro Road.
No, ma'am. Ms. Benson, I've heard that over and over again. You are absolutely correct. I did not support acquisition, been talking about it for 12 months. However, Mr. Rodney Hurd, you're next on the agenda. Please bring this matter down.
Mayor.
No, ma'am. We have discussion. You're out of order. You're out of order. Rodney?
Mayor, I wanted
Yes,
to
ma'am.
ask the attorney
Yes,
and
ma'am.
the city manager to add legal credence once again to what has been done. I think based on their conversation and you allowing the comments that were made and the interruptions that were made to council members, that they should be allowed to speak to the legal status of it all. I believe she did so.
I have a copy of the project list from GDOT, and we're not on the list, Mayor.
Documents you have, I've heard it, A to Z, and I'm very familiar with this project. Rodney, would you please move forward with item number 9, please?
Yes, sir, members of council.
Please,
Mr. Henry, if you'll please step to the podium.
9B. Yes. That's out. Rodney, please bring this matter to our attention.
Absolutely, Mayor.
You will call on Mr. Hammond. Yes, sir. Go ahead.
Mayor, members of council, you have in your package ordinance, a draft ordinance of 15-11-16-001Z. It outlines the development standards that were endorsed, supported by your municipal planning commission regarding our subject property at 234 Turner Street. I will, for those in attendance who are not at our workshop, the subject property is here on Turner Street.